Hi there, folks. I just wanted to mention that the ambient music you'll hear in this episode was created by Tabletop Audio. And now, on to the Dungeon Master Roundtable. Hi there, my name is Teni Dicely, and welcome to the Dungeon Master Roundtable. I'm joined by some of my peers from the D&D YouTubeverse with the intention of asking them some tabletop questions. But before we get to that, I would like to give you all the chance to introduce yourselves and your channels.
Hey, I'm the Bear Bard from Bear Bard Tales. I have a channel here that I go over and narrate different, generally horror stories, but all different types of stories from the YouTubeverse. I'm also on Dice Goblins. We play some of the other creators in the space, Dead of the Drake, Critical Kunuk, some of the other guys. We're all getting together to play some D&D and have some fun. Other tabletops as well.
Hi, I'm Fred Wheeler. I run the How to D&D YouTube channel, and I do pretty much anything on Dungeons & Dragons or any kind of role-play game, and that's pretty much me. That's it.
Hi, I'm Jordan. I usually go by Flutes as my pen name, let's say, for my website and my YouTube channel, Flutes Loot, which I do all these things with my wife. We're just a couple of enthusiasts for D&D who started writing and then started doing some YouTube as well. I don't play the flute, and I've never looted a body. I'll keep the origin of our Flutes Loot name a mystery for now. Perhaps if we make it to 10 years on YouTube, I'll reveal the secret. I don't know. But until then, we just talk about D&D, and sometimes it's about lore, sometimes mechanics. It's just like whatever we feel like.
Does that mean I need to quantify that I'm also not a bear? Nor a bard. So I'm gonna say it depends on the. I don't. That's always a joke. I don't sing at all. So I'm a storytelling bard.
Thank you all for joining me here today. So the first question I've got for this crew with me here, if you could make an adjustment to the spellcasting rules in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, what would you change? Alternatively, have you created your own house rules that affect spellcasting in some way? And how did that play out? Alex, if you want to start.
So I haven't created house rules for it. I was thinking about this one because the idea, I always like the idea of making things more dynamic. Now the hard part is balancing that with fun, because you could do can we change it, make it so if you miss in different directions, and then you kill your own guys, and you're like, well, this isn't fun. I like the idea, and I know some other systems have it where you can fail in degrees. So it's not just pass or fail. You do everything or nothing. And D&D has a little bit of that where if they win their saves, it's half damage or whatever. But if you get your 20, sure, you get a crit. If you get 17 through 19, you get 16 through 19, you get full damage. And then from that, it goes down into potentially critical failure. But you can succeed in failure in degrees. And so, it's if you roll not great, you can still do something, but then, maybe make the one more severe.
All right. Yeah. That's, absolutely the grading kind of tiers of degrees of success and failure, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Not quite so black and white, and just where you could have different effects from it, or even, you can get into failures and have it be degrees of bad. So maybe under 5, 4 and 5, you just miss. 2 and 3, it's miss, but you can nick a guy or something like that. But then 1, blows up in your face. I don't know if you guys have ever played Morkborg. It's kind of like that, where you can have different degrees of failure and different degrees of success. It just it makes it so you can have different results throughout. Then you can start adding tables and stuff like that for failures. There's a lot of growth around that you can look into.
Yeah, interesting. And yeah, there's definitely more you can play with instead of just you do less damage or something like that. Yeah, it's whatever the imagination can do. Absolutely. Fred.
Well, I do a lot of rules on my channel, although I avoid it nowadays as much as I possibly can. But it does happen from time to time. I guess for me, I would take a wrecking ball and a bulldozer and go straight through the rule system like you wouldn't believe. I reckon we should just get rid of bonus action spells completely, frankly. And my rationale is really simple. It's confusing, if you explain to somebody you've got an action, but you've also got a bonus action, they don't understand that there's a special spell that's a bonus action, and they can't just use all their spells as a bonus action to do stuff. Then they've got to go and read a whole lot of stuff, and even if they do, then you like get this situation where they cast a bonus action spell, and then they go to use their normal action to cast a spell, and they want to cast Fireball, and then you've got to say, nah, sorry, buddy, you've got to cast a cantrip if you cast a bonus action spell. And they're looking at you and like, really? What's going on? I don't know what's going on. It's so confusing. And also, too, given that I have been playing this game a while now, from the very get-go through the beta and the alpha, I know personally, and within my own group, that it's very easy to abuse bonus action spells. In fact, right now we are abusing silvery barbs like you wouldn't believe. Yeah, people would go blue if they saw what was going on at our table. So yes, I reckon get rid of that. If I was going to do anything or adjust anything to one of the classes, I would go and help out one of the most shat on subclasses there are, and that would be the Wild Magic Sorcerer. And every time they get to roll, you know, instead of rolling a d20 and determining whether they get to use the Surge table, like every time they cast a level 1 spell or higher, just roll something. Because that's half the reason why you wanted to play a Wild Magic Sorcerer, not to wait for that 1 in 20 chance where you may actually get to roll on the table. It's like, it's just depressing. So yeah, that's me.
Nice. I do like that. I've been very experienced with Wild Magic Sorcerers at the moment. It's just like, advice for players, just spam Tides of Chaos. The DM has to do something when you do that. Just like, you know, get advantage on a roll, and the DM goes, all right, Tides of Chaos, Wild Magic Search. I love that. Those are good. Flutes, how about you?
I've got a laundry list, but the top of my list, I was on the same wavelength as Fred here. So 2 things. 1, Action Surge doesn't work for spells. You can't cast 2 spells in a turn with Action Surge. I'd get rid of that. That just seems weird. Like, why does 2 levels of Fighter make you cast 2 spells? I don't like it. I mean, if I do it, I like it. But as far as like game design, I would ditch that. The other thing is I would get rid of that rule of like if you bonus action cast a spell that you can only cast a cantrip, because it causes so much confusion, and I am tired of explaining it sometimes to the same person every session for a whole campaign. I can't take it anymore. I would get rid of that. I might also put a limitation on reaction spells, similar. If I didn't get rid of the bonus action thing, I might make reaction spells be the same, because people could do like Misty Step and then like Silvery Barbs or Shield in the same turn. And I kind of like how the War Magic Wizard, if they like use certain abilities, they can only cast a cantrip on their next turn. So it's like they have to decide, are they going to use their defensive option reaction, or are they going to cast a leveled spell? That's an interesting choice that I think is cool game design. Those are the top ones. I'd try to do some more drawbacks for spells like Force Cage that just always work, as opposed to like other spells of the same like 7th level spells that are like barely better than a 3rd level spell, and they're no more reliable. So it's like, well, I'm going to take Force Cage because it just always works. I would do more to play with the schools of magic, like certain abilities, like when you, I like the enchantment wizard, how it's like when you cast an enchantment spell, you can twin it. You know, I'd like to see more stuff like that. If you use certain schools of magic, you have an ability that like pumps it up or interacts uniquely with it. I've also considered counterspell a lot, because when you're the DM and you counterspell someone, the player doesn't feel good, but players love casting counterspell. So I've been toying with the idea, like, how do you make it okay? And I came to the conclusion this might be an okay one. I haven't done it yet, but if counterspell doesn't make you lose a spell slot when you get countered, I think that might make it not feel as bad. So, like, let's say you're a player, you're casting Fireball, and someone counterspells you. Yeah, you lose your action. Like, your action economy got stunted, but you still have your spell slot because it just, like, got nullified. I think that would make it feel less bad for players, and I haven't really pitched the idea to many people. I don't know how people feel about it, but that was something that occurred to me. I think sorcerers should be able to learn more spells in a cool way, kind of like wizards do, and I think it would be cool to give them, like, you can take rare gemstones that are clearly tied to magic because they're like rare material components for so many spells. Like, you know, cast Revivify, you need 300 gold of diamonds or whatever. What if you could say, if you're a sorcerer and you have like 500 gold of rubies, you could learn a spell because they don't get as many spells as a wizard. You know what I mean? So you could make that trade. And sure, like I also did like a homebrew like video, like a lot of people do, of like expanded sorcerer spell list, kind of like what Tasha's did for the Aberrant Mind and the Clockwork Soul, where they get more spells, and that just like made sorcerers way better. Like you could just do that too, but I was trying to think of like what's something kind of like wizards where they can accumulate spells as they go, and that would be cool. I also like the idea of degrees of material components. So like one time there was a vampire fight and someone wanted to cast create or destroy water, but use holy water. And so instead of just making it rain, they made it rain holy water, and it did radiant damage to the vampires, which is effective against them. And so I'd like to have like some mechanics where, let's say there's like a basic fireball, but like let's say you got like a greater component for it. And this is something I've homebrewed a little bit, is like giving someone like a cooler component and it makes their spell better. And then my last one, I'm not sure about it, so I'll just call it there. Those are like my top of mind things for like spell casting changes that I think about a lot.
Actually, so,
yeah, go ahead.
No, I just I remembered another one that I'd come up with before, and actually Fred reminded me of it because I almost had the reverse thought where I'd like to expand the bonus spells, and instead of having it be a first level, second level cantrip, whatever, have it be its own section. So you would design spells around just being a bonus action thing. And so maybe it would be, I mean, there could still be some like small damage stuff, but you could have a lot of fun with that. Like ones that interact with other spells you did. Cause then you could have like spell combos specifically, ones that interact with other spells, or ones that, just synergize with your team. Obviously, you have ones that, buff and heal and anything else, but give it its own section. And I think that would alleviate a lot of the confusion people have about it. Because it is confusing. Like, okay, well, shoot, I used the first level. Now it's a cantrip. Or I use this. And if you just made its own whole category, it would just be, it would be fine. You could, that could then become its own whole thing where you start having trouble with that too. But, what does it count? Is it its own spell slot? So it could, there's some complication that could be there still. But I feel like designing spells purely around the idea that they're bonus spells and that's it, and they could, again, interact that way. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
That's a cool idea. And that reminds me of something I've also been trying to think of. If you've ever, I don't know if you guys, it's kind of an obscure game, but it has a following. Octopath Traveler, it's a JRPG. There's a combat mechanic in it where when each time you take a turn in combat, you accumulate like an action point. And you can choose to use them along the way. Like if you have just one action point, you could use it to kind of buff up whatever you're doing a little bit, or you could save up till you have 5 and just do like a really big move. It'd be cool if, and not just spellcasting now, this is a tangent, but if every turn that you don't use your bonus action, you kind of like gain a point and you can use it to do something really cool, like a few rounds into combat. I think that would be really neat. And that would make it so all the optimizers are always trying to use their action, bonus action, and reaction every round to just maximize their action economy. Sometimes you would actually want to not use certain things because you want to like do a power up later. That would be a cool trade-off.
Sounds like we're basically just inventing a whole new system, and I'm loving the sound of it.
I say we're ready for D&D 6e. Let's do it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, and so many of these things I'm like, yes, I love it. I want to use this somehow. And Flutes, you've procced my biggest pet peeve in this edition. At some point I need to make a video about known spells, because the known spells are just so limiting to me. But this idea of giving these spellcasters a similar thing to like how wizards can collect new spells, I feel like that's the solution to like my entire frustration towards that system. But otherwise, the thing I would pitch towards spellcasting rules, and this is something I've started implementing in the campaign I'm currently running, and honestly this is more to do with magic items, but spell scrolls, I don't feel like they're useful enough It's like, if you're a spellcaster and you can use spell scrolls, but only from your spell list, why even bother with them? You can cast them eventually. So what I've started doing, and I wanted to make intelligence skills have more importance in the game. So I was like, all right, here's the rule I'm going to implement. If you have proficiency in the Arcana skill, any spell scroll that is from the wizard's spell list, a character with Arcana proficiency can potentially use that scroll. And same kind of thing with the religion skill for the cleric spell list. And then similar to how, like, if a spellcasting character wants to cast a spell scroll higher than the level they're currently capable of, they have to make an ability check. Basically, any character that's trying to do this kind of thing would have to make that roll. But basically, anybody who has certain skill proficiencies can cast using spell scrolls. And I mean, not every adventuring party has a cleric to revive somebody. So now if you've got somebody trained in religion, you might be able to resurrect a character if somebody dies without needing a cleric. So that was kind of my thought on giving more importance to spell scrolls.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. Instead of tying it to the class spell list that they have access to, tie it to a skill that you assign to that class. Religion to cleric, Arcana to wizard. That's a cool idea.
Yeah, and I've been playing around with ideas of other classes, but those are the only two I've implemented so far. I mean, you could do like performance for bards, of course, but that might also be Arcana. Anyway, these are ideas I've been toying with. Yeah, this was a lot of very interesting stuff. Does anybody want to add anything before we wrap up here?
No, I'm good.
Very well then. Thank you, everybody, for joining me here today. For everybody who's watching this video, be sure to check out these folks' channels and their content. You can find links for them down below. And until next time, may you all play Dicely. Bye-bye.